Okay, I admit it. Maybe the timing wasn't perfect. But is telling your boyfriend he's a freeloader in front of his parents, once, really enough to justify him throwing away 5 years of our lives? Am I the crazy one here? It was one heated comment during a tense dinner. One, and suddenly our apartment, our future, everything we've built is just collateral damage. He's acting like I committed some unforgivable crime when all I did was blurt out a harsh truth. A truth we both knew, by the way. He's completely ghosting me, acting like I'm some kind of monster. He's the one who turned a stupid argument into a nuclear meltdown that has completely derailed my life. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think I'm the one who deserves an apology here. How is any of this fair to me? Let me lay it out for you because context is everything. I'm Nadia. I'm a regional manager for a fast-growing tech firm. That means 60-hour weeks, constant pressure, and a salary that reflects it. I'm the one who secured the lease on our beautiful 2-bedroom apartment downtown, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows that Kieran loves so much. I'm the one who pays for the utilities, the groceries, the subscriptions to the streaming services he uses for his research. I don't say this to brag, it's just a fact. I do it because I love him and I believe in him. Kieran is a documentary filmmaker, and he's brilliant, truly. He has this incredible eye for capturing the soul of our city, the forgotten stories in crumbling neighborhoods. His last project, about the last generation of fishermen on the old pier, was beautiful. It got into a couple of local film festivals, won a tiny award, and made exactly $0. His income is sporadic, to be generous. It comes in small bursts from freelance editing gigs he picks up between his passion projects. For 5 years, I've been his biggest cheerleader. I've read drafts of his scripts, given feedback on rough cuts, and held him when a grant application was rejected. I've told everyone we know that he's the next big thing. But support isn't just about words, is it? It's also about keeping the lights on. It's about creating a stable environment where he has the freedom to create. And I've done that. I've happily done that. But lately, the pressure has been getting to me. My job is demanding. My boss is talking about a promotion, one that might require a move. I'm trying to build a future, a real, tangible future with savings and maybe a mortgage. And it feels like I'm the only one rowing the boat. I thought he understood that. I thought we were a team. My job was to be the financial engine, and his was to build his career until it could support itself. But his projects are becoming more niche, more personal, and less commercially viable. He talks about artistic integrity and his mission to document local history. I get it, I do, it's noble, but nobility doesn't pay the rent. His parents, sweet as they are his echo chamber. They've always coddled him, telling him his art is more important than money. They're retired school teachers, they don't understand the financial realities of the world we live in. They see his struggle as a romantic artist's journey. I see a 32-year-old man whose primary source of income is his girlfriend, and I was starting to feel less like a partner and more like a patron. And that resentment, it was starting to build. The flashpoint was dinner. One of those cozy, once-a-month family meals at his parents' house. His mom, Elena, makes a killer lasagna, and his dad, Robert, always opens a bottle of wine he can't really afford. Usually, I love these nights. They're a calm port in the storm of my work week. But this time, the air felt different. Kieran had been excited all day, dropping hints about some big news. We were halfway through the main course when Robert cleared his throat, beaming with a kind of paternal pride that was almost painfully earnest. "Well, Kieran," he said, raising his glass, "your mother and I have been talking. We are just so incredibly proud of your new project idea." I smiled a polite practice smile. It was a documentary about the history of local letterpress printing, a craft that maybe 5 people in the entire city still practiced. Fascinating, I'm sure, but the commercial appeal was non-existent. Elena reached across the table and squeezed Kieran's hand. "It's so important to preserve these histories, honey, and we know how tight funding can be." She looked at Robert, then back at us. "So, we've decided we're going to help. We're taking some money from our retirement fund to be your first executive producers." The silence that followed was filled with their expectant, happy faces. Kieran was speechless, his eyes glistening. He looked at me, waiting for me to share in his joy, but all I felt was a cold, rushing wave of panic. His parents weren't wealthy. dipping into their retirement savings for another one of his passion projects felt reckless, irresponsible. It felt like they were enabling him, keeping him in this state of suspended adolescence. And in that moment, all my carefully managed frustrations, all the stress of carrying us financially, just boiled over. The words came out before I could stop them, sharp and ugly. "You absolutely should not do that," I said, my voice cutting through the warmth of the room. They all stared at me. "Nadia," Kieran started, a warning tone in his voice. I ignored him, looking directly at his parents. "Don't you see what this does? You can't keep propping him up. He needs to learn to stand on his own 2 feet." My voice was getting louder, higher. Maybe if Kieran wasn't a struggling artist who is perfectly happy to live off his girlfriend and his parents, we could actually be thinking about buying a house by now, instead of him just making these little films that nobody ever sees. The final, fatal blow landed with surgical precision. "I love him, but I can't be the only adult in this relationship. You need to stop enabling this freeloader lifestyle." The word hung in the air, grotesque and final. The look on his parents' faces was something I will never forget. It wasn't anger. It was a deep, profound hurt, as if I'd slapped both of them. Robert slowly put his wine glass down, his hand trembling slightly. Elena just stared at her plate, her cheerful expression completely erased. And Kieran, his face went completely white. All the light, all the joy just drained out of him, leaving behind a blank, hollow mask. I knew, even as the word was leaving my lips, that I had crossed a line. But I was too angry, too self-righteous to care. I just wanted to shock him into reality. I just wanted him to grow up. The car ride home was a tomb. The silence was so heavy I could barely breathe. I kept replaying the scene in my head, the shock on his parents' faces. A small, nauseous bubble of regret was starting to form in my stomach, but my anger was still a roaring fire, burning away any other emotion. He had embarrassed me, forcing me into the role of the bad guy, the unsupportive, materialistic girlfriend. It was his fault. When we got back to the apartment, I braced myself for the fight of our lives. I was ready for screaming, for slammed doors, for him to finally unleash all the frustration he must have felt. At least a fight would be something I could handle. We could yell, say things we didn't mean, and then fall into an exhausted, apologetic heap. That was our pattern, but that's not what happened. Kieran walked into the living room and stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. He wasn't angry, he wasn't yelling. He was terrifyingly calm. That was so much worse. "Nadia," he said, his voice flat and devoid of any emotion. He didn't turn to look at me. "Do you have any idea what you did tonight?" I was trying to make a point, Kieran. "We're drowning, I'm drowning." I shot back, my voice defensive. He finally turned and his eyes were empty. That's the only word for it. The warmth, the love I was so used to seeing there, was just gone. "My parents offered me their help because they love me," he said, each word delivered slowly and deliberately. "They believe in my work, they believe in me. And you took that beautiful, selfless gesture and you spat on it. You spat on them. And you did it for an audience. That's not fair. I was just being realistic." "No," he said, shaking his head slowly. "It wasn't about being realistic. It was about humiliation. You wanted to hurt me, to shame me into being the person you think I should be. You don't see a partner when you look at me, Nadia. You see a project, a fixer-upper, something that isn't living up to its potential, your potential." He paused, and the silence stretched on. "I'm tired," he said, and the words seemed to carry the weight of years. "I'm so tired of feeling like I'm a constant disappointment to you. I can't live with someone who fundamentally disrespects who I am and what I do." He walked past me towards the bedroom. I stood frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs. He came back out a few minutes later with a duffel bag over his shoulder. "I'm going to stay at a friend's," he said, his voice still unnervingly level. "I need some space to think." And just like that, he was gone. No screaming match, no dramatic exit, just a quiet, devastating verdict. He closed the door behind him, and the soft click of the latch sounded like a gunshot in the silent apartment. The first 24 hours were a blur of pure, uncut rage. How dare he? How dare he walk out on me after one stupid comment? I bombarded his phone with a novel's worth of texts. They started as angry accusations. "You're really going to throw everything away over this? Unbelievable." Then they morphed into demands. "You need to come home and talk to me. Hiding isn't going to solve anything." Finally, they devolved into a kind of condescending apology. "Look, I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, but you have to see my point." His only reply came hours later, a single, infuriatingly calm text. "I need space." Space? What a coward's response. He couldn't even face me. By day 3, my anger was curdling into a frantic, buzzing anxiety. I couldn't focus at work. I sat in meetings, staring at spreadsheets, but all I could see was the hollow look in his eyes. I decided I needed backup, an ally. I called my best friend, Olivia. I met her at our usual wine bar, ready to unload. I gave her the whole story, carefully framed to paint me as the long-suffering, pragmatic partner and Kieran as the overly sensitive man-child. I emphasized my financial contributions, his lack of income, and my desire for a real future. I finished my monologue, took a large gulp of Pinot Grigio, and waited for the wave of validation. "You're so right," she would say. "He's being a baby." But Olivia just sat there, swirling the wine in her glass, not looking at me. The silence stretched on, becoming deeply uncomfortable. "Liv," I prompted, "are you going to say anything?" She finally looked up, and her expression wasn't sympathetic. It was pitying. "Nadia," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I love you, you know that, but what you did was awful." I recoiled as if she'd slapped me. "What? I was just being honest." "No," she said, shaking her head. "Honesty is telling Kieran in private that you're worried about finances. What you did was a public execution. You called him a freeloader, in front of the 2 people in the world whose opinion he values more than anyone's. You didn't just insult his career choice, you weaponized his parents' love for him to do it. That's not about stimulating him. That's about tearing him down to the studs because you're frustrated." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I started to argue, to defend myself, but the words caught in my throat. For the first time, a hairline crack appeared in the fortress of my self-righteous anger. Through that crack, a terrifying thought seeped in. What if she's right? What if I really, truly screwed this up beyond repair? A week after he left, I got a text. It wasn't the angry, emotional novel I was hoping for. It was a sterile, logistical message. "Nadia, I'm coming to get my things on Saturday. Please be out of the apartment between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I'd prefer to do this alone." My first instinct was defiance. "No way, this is my apartment. You're not kicking me out of my own home so you can pack in peace. We need to talk this out, face to face." So, I stayed. I spent all Saturday morning rehearsing my speech, a perfect blend of tearful apology and firm ultimatums. I'd make him see that we could fix this. But 10 a.m. came and went, then 11 a.m. Kieran never showed up. At 11:30, the doorbell rang. It was 2 guys from a moving company. "We're here for Mr. Vance's belongings," the bigger one said, holding a clipboard. I was so stunned, I just stepped aside and let them in. For the next 2 hours, I sat on the couch in a state of numb shock, watching them systematically dismantle our life. They packed his books, his clothes, his collection of vintage cameras. They carefully wrapped the framed posters of obscure films he loved. They were efficient, impersonal, and utterly brutal. They took everything that was his, leaving gaping holes on the shelves and bare patches on the walls. The apartment felt cavernous and cold. After they left, I wandered through the empty rooms like a ghost. His side of the closet was a void. The bathroom counter, once cluttered with his things, was starkly empty except for my own. It was in his office, the second bedroom he'd converted into a creative den, that I finally broke. His desk was completely clear, except for one thing they'd missed, tucked away in the back corner of a drawer, a small, black USB drive. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. I knew I shouldn't. It was an invasion of his privacy, but I was desperate for anything, a clue, an answer, a reason. I plugged it into my laptop. There was only one file on it, a video file named for Nadia. My heart stopped. I clicked play. It was a birthday video. My birthday was next month. The video started with Olivia, laughing into the camera, talking about the time we got lost in Italy. Then it cut to my brother, then my parents, all of them sharing a favorite memory of me, all of them saying how much they loved me. Kieran had secretly interviewed them all. The final part of the video was just him. He was in his office, the camera close on his face. He looked so happy, so full of love. "Happy birthday, Nadia," he said, his voice soft. "I know I don't say it enough, but I am so unbelievably proud of the woman you are. You're brilliant, you're driven, and you inspire me every single day. I know things have been stressful lately, and I know my path isn't the easiest one to be a passenger on. But I want you to know, I'm working towards our future, too. In my own way." He smiled, and then he held something up to the camera. It was a small, velvet box. He opened it. Inside was a vintage, Art Deco engagement ring, the exact kind I'd pointed out in an antique shop window months ago and forgotten about. "I bought this with the money from the fisherman documentary," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's not much, but it's the first piece of our future that I bought with my own art. And I can't wait to build the rest of it with you." The video ended. The screen went black. The only sound in the room was the sound of my own heart shattering into a million pieces. The file's creation date was 2 days before that horrible dinner. 2 days before I had stood in front of his parents and called the man who was about to propose to me a freeloader. It's been 3 months. I'm out with my colleagues from work tonight at one of those loud, trendy bars where the cocktails have ridiculous names. I'm wearing a new dress, my makeup is flawless, and I've been laughing a little too loudly all evening. "Honestly, it's for the best," I say, raising my glass in a mock toast. My voice is bright, maybe a little brittle. Breaking up was the best career move I could have made. Now I can finally focus on what's important, you know? Find someone who's on my level, an equal partner, not a project I have to manage. They all nod in agreement, murmuring supportive things. They see the successful, put-together Nadia. The one who's better off without him. I play the part well. But when I get home and the key turns in the lock, the performance is over. The apartment is still too big, too quiet. The silence is a physical presence. Before I even take off my coat, I walk over to my laptop, open it up, and navigate to the file. The only thing of his that's left. I press play. And I watch him. I watch his kind eyes. I listen to his gentle voice telling me he's proud of me. I watch him open that little velvet box over and over again. And I sit there in the dark, the city lights twinkling outside the window, and I let myself cry. I let the tough, heartless woman I pretend to be dissolve, and I just cry for the man I loved, and for the beautiful future I so casually, so arrogantly burned to the ground.